I'm Dominic Brittain. I'm here to speak to you about Edward de Bono's 6 thinking hats. My background is counter-terrorist bomb disposal, and interestingly enough, we used a very similar process to Edward de Bono in thinking about this. Everybody thinks about the man who goes and defuses the bomb, or the woman. And for example, in this case, here you've got a suspicious car halfway up the street, and this is exactly what you'll see as a bomb disposal team when you arrive. And you've got a few minutes, like these guys have, to actually understand what's going on by interviewing people, make a plan, get up there and do it. But there are 2 men in the team, the bomb disposal operator, who's on the right-hand side in the combat uniform, and the number 2, who is behind him, behind that door, listening while working. And that number 2 is a very, very important part of a team. He's got hundreds of items of equipment which he has to look after and make sure are ready. But he's also there to think in parallel to the bomb disposal operator and make sure that the bomb disposal operator's thinking is true and to the point. Right up to the point where he is dressing the bomb disposal officer up to go into action, that number 2 is thinking in parallel with the number 1 in a series of different directions. And Edward de Bono, the Maltese psychologist, had a very, very similar approach to it in his 6-hat thinking. His book on this is well worth a read, but it contains 2 key concepts. The first is that we need to think in parallel for 6-hat thinking, and the second is we need to switch between thinking styles. Very similar to what we did in bomb disposal. Let's look at parallel thinking first. In traditional debate, you have A with a point of view and B with a point of view. They both argue against each other, and the hope is that truth will come out of that. In parallel thinking, A and B look at the issue together from the same perspective. And that is a very, very powerful way of looking at an issue and finding truth. It doesn't replace traditional debate, it's an alternative to it. The second point from de Bono was to switch thinking directions, just as we did in bomb disposal. He uses this analogy. Let's assume that this is a beautiful house that needs to be sold by a team of 4 estate agents. They could look at it, A, B, and C, and D, the 4 estate agents, from different perspectives and discuss by mobile phone with each other as they stand looking at it, which is the best perspective to sell the house from. Alternatively, they could all walk around and look at it from one perspective, then the second perspective, then the third perspective, and then the fourth perspective, working in parallel and switching thinking directions before they decide which is the best way to sell this house. So these thinking directions, Edward de Bono said, were 5 main thinking directions. The first of these is to look at just the neutral facts. What facts are available, what are missing, what are assumptions. And he used the white hat to think about this, and to remember that, just think about paper, where facts normally are written down. The second hat he had was gut feel. This is about instincts, hunches, feelings. And he used the red hat for this, and think about your heart, what your heart feels about the subject. The third hat was critical judgment and caution. Does it fit with our ethics and values, whether this will or will not work? And he gave that the black hat, and he was thinking of the judge's robes when he did that. The fourth was sunny optimism. This is the logical positive. What is the good in it? What are the benefits? What value will come from it? He gave this the yellow hat, and he was thinking of sunshine when he decided on the colour yellow. And the fifth of these hats was creativity, new ideas, alternatives, new possibilities. And he gave that the green hat, and he was thinking of growth and vegetation. 5 main thinking directions. But remember, there were 6 hats, and the 6th hat from de Bono was a hat that looks after process control. It defines the situation, controls the switching of hats, summarizes the outcomes and the next steps. He gave that a blue hat, and he was thinking about a police officer directing traffic. So when you're switching thinking directions while looking at, for example, an execution plan, or it could be any other issue, he was saying that you need to have a blue hat approach, a white hat approach together, the red hat approach together, yellow hat approach together, the black hat approach together, and the green hat approach together. And so you think in parallel from 6 different perspectives around this problem. In order to help with that, we have a 6 thinking hats memory aid card, which can help you go through each of the hats and what questions you might think about when thinking about those hats. If you have any questions on this, perhaps the best place to go is to Edward de Bono's book, which I would recommend. It's an excellent read. There's me reading on the book about how to defuse a bomb while sitting next to it. Alternatively, just drop me an email and I'd be happy to answer any of your questions and get you back on track if you're having difficulties. All the best with it, and thank you very much for listening.